Hey, welcome back to the eDrum Workshop. I'm Luke, and the question that I've been asked the most recently is when will my custom kits for the Roland V71 module be available? The second most asked question is when will the V51 kits be available? Then the V31, will this particular kit be coming to the module? And look, this is great. I'm so glad that you're looking forward to these kits. So to say thank you for your support and to answer some of your questions, I thought I'd fill you in on where I'm up to with these kits, give you an idea of when to expect them, and generally how they'll work when they are available. I'll treat you to a couple more examples of my work in progress a little bit later on, and I'd also like to get some opinions from those of you that own any of the new Roland modules about some of the features of the kits, so stick around for that. Since my V71 module eventually arrived back in around July, I've been experimenting with the best way to bring my existing kit series over from modules like the TD50X, 27 and 17. So one really cool thing about the new modules is that there's finally more variation in the onboard sampled instruments. It seems that there are maybe more dynamic layers and a few more round robins when you hit the pads in succession. And of course this is something that Roland are advertising a lot, and although it's definitely not quite full-blown VST levels of variations, it's definitely a noticeable upgrade from the previous generation. But this is where I ran into my first issue when building kits on the V71. I had quite a lot of user samples to my kits, and I believe that the way that I utilise them is a big strength that sets them apart from other vendors. And it appears that my customers agree with this, which is fantastic. Thank you very much for your kind feedback over the years. The problem is that the user sample implementation is still kind of limited compared to the stock sounds. You can now use more layers on each pad zone, so 3 instead of the previous 2, and there are way more things that you can edit per layer as well. The way that transients work with imported samples has also been improved, and there's even this new setting called Nuance, which changes how the samples behave. This is all really cool, and they add up to some pretty powerful tools. But the samples still ultimately act like one-shot samples. I could add an extra layer to fade between, sure, and I can utilise all of these cool new settings, but there's no ability to use multiple user samples as round robins on one layer, for example. So I've spent a lot of time trying to perfect the balance of using my samples to add the extra punch, the feel, and the acoustic realism that people like about my kits, but without cancelling out those noticeable variations in sound that the new onboard sounds bring. I think I've cracked it with some workarounds that give me more variation than I was expecting. So that's one problem solved. I think that these kits are shaping up better than ever, but I'll let you be the judge of that. Now, the V51 and the V31 modules can load kits that have been made on the V71. So this is great news for all of us. It means that I don't need to develop 3 versions of every Roland pack that I create like I did before. And for you, this means that once I release a new kit or pack, that's it. It's available for you to buy for all 3 of the current Roland V modules right away. Sound-wise, as far as I understand it, these will all be exactly the same, so you won't run into the situation where you maybe listen to the V71 demo, then buy the V51, and find out that that version is different. Since the previous generation all had different sounds and features on each module, I tried to keep the kits as consistent as possible between them, but there were always going to be differences. The problem that this creates, though, is that now it makes it hard for me to properly support you with any troubleshooting if I don't have access to all 3 modules. Yes, they should technically just work right out of the gate on all of these modules, but if you need some assistance with something on the V31, and I've only got the V71, I can't really verify or test any of the solutions that I give you. I take a lot of pride in my customer service, and the best way for me to deliver that is to be able to support you with accurate, useful information that properly addresses anything that might come up. You know, the use of AI chatbots recently has only proven that misinformation is really easy to come by, especially when it comes to electronic drums. The whole reason that I began the eDrum workshop was to try and dispel some of that nonsense that comes up relating to eDrums. So I hope you're able to hold on a little longer so that I can verify that everything definitely works exactly as it should across all of these 3 modules. I'll be making tutorials for customizing my kits in a bunch of different ways once I've got all of the modules, so make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Now, the good news here is that I've just bought a TD-516 kit, so now I've got a V51 module, and I do have a V31 on order. I've been told that it will hopefully be with me sometime in January. The caveat, though, is that the date for my V71 did get pushed back a few times, so I can't promise that it definitely will be. I saw that DrumTech had some available to deliver right away. Thank you to those of you who pointed this out. I chose not to go for that option though, because I can get a better price here in the UK if I hold out, and I also won't have to deal with importing it, the fees involved, or just sending it back to Germany if there are any issues with it. I haven't unboxed the TD-516 kit yet, but once I do, I'll begin testing on that module. Then hopefully it'll be a reasonably quick process once the V31 arrives, as long as the module arrives on time. If there's no delay with the V31 module, then I'm hoping to begin releasing kits by the end of February 2026. Even when the kits are finished, I've got to shoot demo videos, update or create artwork, write up manuals, shoot tutorial videos and things like that, so there's a bit more work to do. The first batch of kits will include new versions of my older Roland packs, as well as a new pack called Snap Pop Punch that I've developed in tandem with the TD50X, TD27 and TD17 versions. Please understand though that this rough release schedule is subject to change if there are delays with hardware or if other issues crop up. I've also been asked a few times about an upgrade path from the previous modules. Unfortunately, these modules are very different and the whole development process has basically been from scratch. And I've actually gone back to the source samples on quite a few of these kits now, and I've tweaked them to work even better on the new modules. So you're not just getting some sloppy copy and paste job, these are tailor-made, brand new versions, utilizing as many of the new features as possible. So speaking of new features, this is where you come in. I put out a poll a while back asking users of my Roland kits whether they really play the snare wires off kits or the snare wires off instruments that are included with some of my packs. Just short of 80% of people said that they either don't use them or they rarely play them. It only had around 87 votes, so it's not a huge survey. If you've got thoughts about this, please let me know down in the comments. And part of the reason I asked this was because, of course, the new digital snare has the ability to turn the strainer on and off, which is great fun and I really like it, but there's no user sample implementation for this function. So I can't add a wires on and a wires off sample and then use the strainer to swap between them. And that's a big bummer for me because I would have really liked to have been able to do that. Since there's nothing I can do to combat that, I'm planning to disable the strainer for my kits, or at least change its function. It doesn't really make sense to have a sample of a snare with the wires on play over the top of an internal instrument with the wires off. I did experiment with using wires off samples for my snares instead and just manipulating the snare wire settings to make up for it, but it never came out in a way that felt satisfying enough to play, which is kind of the whole point of my kits. But this leads into other functions. For example, on the snare and the toms, the rim positional sensing when it's turned on lets you play either a rim click by hitting the rim alone or a rim shot by hitting both together. There's no way for me to add a user sample to a rim click and a rim shot and then bounce between them using positional sensing. I could set up velocity fades for the two samples, and I kind of did that with the rim shots on my older kits, but it's not the same thing. So I want to know how important this feature is to you. Would you prefer that the rim click is just turned off for the kits where I add my own samples to the rims, so then you'll just get a constant dynamic rim shot but no rim click? Or do you prefer the approach where the lower velocities will still trigger a rim click and higher velocities will bring in the sample for the rim shot? I can easily do it either way, it's just that while I'm still making these kits, I may as well find out what people would prefer. I can also do a tutorial showing you how to change between these approaches. It's actually just a very simple switch in a particular menu, but I'd love to know how you use them to inform the default settings. And this doesn't affect the cross stick, by the way, that's a completely separate articulation. Now, if you want to keep up to date with my kit releases for any of these modules, I've opened up a mailing list on the eDrum Workshop store. You can sign up from any page on the site, and the plan is to only send send out emails for new product releases, videos that I think are relevant to customers, so not every video that I put out, or to let you know about any offers or promotions that might be running. If you're subscribed to this channel with the notifications turned on, then you should see any new demo videos as they release. And I think that's enough talking about it. Have a listen to these demos, and I'll see you in the next one.